Well, good morning. So good to see you guys. It's been a while, huh? We had that digital detox, so it took a week. If you guys join me, I'd love to hear in the comments what it is that you got out of that time. I tell you what, I didn't miss anything. I didn't miss the constant updates or the arguing or the berating, social media. And I'd love to be able to hear what it is you got out of that time. But for me, I just felt like I was able to notice what it is that I've been missing. And I felt like, well, I just noticed this on the trail, like my roots got to go deeper. See, the problem here is that this tree went down because the roots weren't deep enough. And if we're not careful, the same thing could happen to us when the storms and the wind begins to work its way through. If our roots aren't deep in the things of God, we're going to go down. And there's just too much shallow conversation going on right now. Anyways, all of that to say, I really enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear what it is that you got out of it. But as I was taking that digital detox and I was approaching my 46th birthday, which was yesterday, I just tried to take some extra chunks of time to hear the Lord. And again, I don't know if you guys found this, but when I'm not plugged into what everyone else is saying, it's easier to hear what it is that God is saying. And I was actually checking out these new trails here and just began to have this conversation with God, like, okay, God, headed into my 46th year, what's next? And it's not necessarily what it is that I wanted to hear, but I just heard the Lord clearly say that I'm headed into a valley. And I'm like, what? A valley? That's not what I want. And yet the Lord just really spoke clearly to me that I'm headed into a valley season. And so I decided that this morning's hike would be going down into the valley, because I think this is where we're headed. Not just me, but even our country. And I think it's going to be important for you and I to be ready for it. And of course, I was joking with God. I'm like, okay, God, I know I'm on the, downside of the 40s, but does that mean that, I'm going through a valley? I also said, God, I've been through a valley. I've really feel like I'm actually coming out of the valley right now. And it was so good because it was right there when the Lord said, exactly, you know how to go through the valley. And that's why I'm sending you back. Because there's others who don't know how to work their way through this. They see the sun up there, but they're in the darkness of the valley. And I just felt like this was a word for you. Those of you who've already been through economic valleys, those of you who've already been through physical valleys, those who've been through spiritual valleys of depression and hardship, relational struggle, all of those valleys that you've already worked through, and you've followed your shepherd through the valley of the shadow of death at any level. Listen, I've always thought, oh good, he's led us through. That means that we don't have to go back. But God reminded me of Luke 22 when he's telling Peter before he faces the cross. He said, the devil has asked to sift you like wheat, and I have prayed that your faith would remain. And when you've come through, I want you to return and strengthen your brothers. Now, this was the idea that, well, hey, first of all, we know that we're going to get sifted. But second of all, there's this place where like sifting, like when you're sifting gold, there's going to be certain large pieces of precious stone that are going to stay, right? All the sand, all the worthless pieces, they're going to go through. This is what God was telling Peter. He was saying, I'm going to allow you to be sifted so that you can go back and help others when they feel like they're done, when they feel like God has abandoned them. You're already going to have gone through it. And 30 years later, Peter, in his books, 1st and 2nd Peter, he describes that process, although this time he describes the devil as a lion seeking whom he may destroy, but that God has come to give life. And he returns to his brothers and strengthens them through his writings and through his life. And I feel like that's what God is calling me to do. And that's what God is calling us to do. Listen, we're 1 week away from the election. This is not a prophetic thing about who's going to win the election. This is a sense that no matter who wins the election, things aren't necessarily going to just get easier. In fact, in some ways, they might get harder. And that God has called you and I to be willing to be the ones to come back, the ones that have already gone through the valley, to come back and show others the way through, that they're not stuck, that there is a trail that God can lead them through. And ironically, when I was taking this trail before my birthday, I got lost because I hadn't been here before, and so I used Siri, and I found where I was, and then my little home icon so that I could find my way back home. And again, this is just how God talks to me. It was like God was saying, exactly, this is what I want you to do. I want you to show people how to find their way back home. And so I share all of this with you today. Maybe you're in a valley right now. Maybe all you see is just brush and obstacle and pain. And God just wants you to know, first of all, yeah, we're being sifted. All of us are in 2020. 2020 is like the year of sifting the church, sifting our faith. But our faith is going to remain strong. Here's how I know. Because Jesus is praying for us. Yeah, if there's any prayer that's going to get answered, it's going to be his. And he's praying for you and I. He hasn't just brought us down to the valley to leave us here. No, he leads us through the valley of the shadow of death as the good shepherd. And so maybe you and I that have already been through the valley, the last thing we want to do is think about the future of going back into the valley. But you know the way through. Like Peter, you've been sifted. You've come through on the other side. Can I just encourage you, no matter what our country looks like a week from today, no matter who's sitting in the White House, that God would reign over our house, and our faith, though it's tested, would not fail, because Jesus is with us and is calling us to go back and help others through this. And so the sun is up there, and you and I are going to get there together. And I just want to pray that the God that has met you in the mountains will be the God that would meet you in the valleys. I want to pray that as we enter into whatever this year is going to mean for our country's economy, whatever it's going to mean for our political state, whatever it's going to mean for our health with the virus, that whatever it is sifting your faith right now in your relationships, that God wants to meet you here. And if you're in the valley right now, Jesus is praying for you. Let's turn to him. Let's run to him. And he's already been here. He's going to show us the way through. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you today in today's Thursday Thoughts. And I'm going to find my way out of this valley, and I know you will too. God bless.